if I kind of wind the clock back to the late 80s, early 90s, and Fred will remember this well, sustainability then was just, well, first of all, it's a brand new term, right? I mean, it didn't really exist prior to the late 80s. Back then it was business and the environment, right? That was kind of the buzzword in good currency. And what that basically meant for companies was, kind of getting your own house in order, right? It was reducing waste, reducing emissions, dealing with things in your own facilities and operations. And I think, we got a good lesson in the social side of that, right? With the welfare to career program. But it was also true environmentally, right? That the main focus was on reducing emissions and reducing waste. And by doing so, the business case was reducing cost and reducing risk. That I think that was very much kind of the first stages of, kind of business, environment, and sustainability. But, as the 90s unfolded, it became increasingly clear that just sort of thinking about your own operations and facilities wasn't nearly enough. Not only was it not going to solve the problems, but it also didn't come close to seizing all the possible opportunities. So I think the next step, which is what you mentioned this piece called Beyond Greening, that's really what it focused on, right? That if the greening phase was really about the, internal eco-efficiency and social sustainability angle within your own facilities, Beyond Greening was about reaching out more broadly, kind of thinking upstream, the entire value chain, thinking downstream kind of products and services. What impacts do they have? Environmentally, can you think about closed loop? Again, the buzzword today is circular, but back then it was called closed loop. Sort of thinking in those terms, across the entire value chain. And then socially, to think about how could we serve and lift the underserved at the base of the pyramid, not just in your own operations, but as customers and as suppliers. Right? How could you begin to think about that? And you heard a bit about that, with the biosand filter, right? In terms of the Cascade case example. So you think now more broadly about this being part of the core business. Right, not just sort of cleaning up your own facilities and being a good employer. And then I think, just in the last decade, there's even a further widening, right, of the lens. When you think about this, of the aperture, where I think increasingly people in business realize that, that it's really crucially important to think about the entire value chain, and there is real business opportunity there. But even beyond that, we have to think in terms of wider system change, right? That sometimes the constraints that are put on industries or issues or policy issues really sort of slow down or make impossible the kinds of value chain of innovations that companies want to achieve. So more and more you see companies getting involved in partnership ecosystems, right? In, kind of collaborating, public-private partnerships, collaborating with NGOs, collaborating with other companies to achieve a wider system change, whether it's around an issue, whatever it might be, climate change or deforestation, or around a policy issue, maybe it has to do with subsidies or other kind of institutional change issues, right? So you think of it in terms of system redesign or system change. And I think that's where we are now, sort of it's the kind of the ever widening aperture. And it's not like the earlier greening part goes away. That's still there, right? But it's a little bit like the Russian dolls. There's one inside the other, and I think increasingly the idea of business and sustainability is viewed in this much wider sense.